Part 1. The Shadow Before the Storm. The air in Boston reeked of salt and smoke. It was March 1770, and the harbor that once glittered with merchant ships now glimmered under the shadow of British redcoats. Every tavern whispered rebellion. Every church bell seemed to toll for freedom, and every man wondered who might be the next to fall. Among them walked Elias Carter, a name history almost forgot. He wasn't a soldier, not yet. He was a schoolteacher by trade, a quiet man with ink-stained fingers and a sharp memory. His students adored him for his gentle wit, but the Crown saw something more dangerous, a man who could read, write, and think for himself. That, in 1770 Boston, was enough to make you a threat. The first spark. Elias first felt the rumblings of rebellion one cold morning at the Green Dragon Tavern, the unofficial meeting place for every patriot, smuggler, and dreamer who dared speak of liberty. That day the tavern buzzed with rage over the Boston Massacre, 5 colonists gunned down by British soldiers. Elias stood by the window, quill in hand, taking notes for what he called the truth behind the smoke. He didn't know it yet, but those notes would one day make him a marked man. He watched as Samuel Adams pounded his fist on the table. "They fire on their own people," Adams thundered. "Will we kneel or will we rise?" A murmur spread through the crowd. Rise! And in that single echo, a revolution took root. Elias raised his cup but said nothing. His eyes were on the redcoats outside, their muskets gleaming in the fading light. He could feel the tension, the invisible line between loyalty and treason tightening around his neck. That night he wrote in his journal, "Freedom begins in silence, in the private corners of a man's heart, long before the drums of war begin to beat." The secret meeting. Weeks later, a messenger slipped a folded note beneath his door. No seal, no name, only 3 words, "For the cause." He followed the instructions to a candle-lit cellar beneath the print shop of Isaiah Thomas, the publisher of the Massachusetts Spy. There, a dozen men whispered around a map of the colonies, tracing rivers and forts with trembling fingers. At the head of the table sat Dr. Joseph Warren, physician, patriot, and soon-to-be martyr. Warren's eyes found Elias in the dim light. "You're the schoolteacher. You write well. We need that more than muskets." "What do you need me to write?" Elias asked cautiously. "Truth, the kind that spreads faster than fear." And so began Elias Carter's transformation, from schoolteacher to underground propagandist for liberty. He would secretly distribute leaflets, encode messages in letters, and even hide intelligence in the margins of children's spelling books. The British called it treason. He called it duty. The redcoat's shadow. But every whisper of rebellion has its listener. Captain Nathaniel Hawke of His Majesty's 14th Regiment had made it his mission to crush sedition in Boston. A man of cold precision and darker ambition, Hawke had a knack for smelling lies. He soon heard of a schoolmaster spreading ink instead of bullets, and began his hunt. He watched Elias from a distance, the tavern meetings, the late-night walks by the harbor, the quiet conversations with dock workers. Hawke didn't yet know that Elias was encoding troop movement reports in children's poems, but he would soon. The irony was cruel. Both men, in their hearts, believed they were serving justice, one for the king, one for the unborn republic. The storm breaks.
By April 1775, the colonies were on fire. Lexington and Concord echoed with musket fire. The shot heard round the world. Elias stood at the edge of the battlefield, clutching a small packet of papers bound in twine, coded dispatches for General George Washington, who had not yet become a legend, but already commanded respect as a man of quiet resolve. To reach him, Elias would have to cross British lines, alone. He slipped through forests thick with fog and fear, carrying not a musket, but a message that could alter the course of the war. Intelligence on a secret British plan to seize colonial armories along the Connecticut River. It was a suicide mission, but so was silence. The capture. 3 nights later, beneath a moon as thin as a blade, Elias was caught. Captain Hawke himself led the ambush, dragging him from his horse near a broken stone bridge. Mr. Carter, a teacher turned traitor. How poetic. Elias said nothing, even as the butt of a musket struck his jaw. They found only blank paper in his satchel, or so they thought. The codes were written in lemon juice, invisible until heated by candle flame. When the British realized it, it was too late. The papers had already been copied and passed. The intelligence had reached Washington's camp. Elias Carter was taken to a makeshift cell in Boston, where he awaited execution. But fate, it seemed, was not done with him yet. The escape. On the eve of his hanging, a cloaked figure slipped into his cell. A woman. It was Sarah Whitfield, a seamstress and patriot courier whom Elias had once tutored to read by candlelight. "It's I," she whispered, pressing a small knife into his hand. "I owe you my words. Now take back your freedom." In the chaos of a midnight raid, British troops distracted by rebel skirmish, Elias vanished into the night, wounded but alive. From that moment, he ceased to exist as Elias Carter. In rebel records, he was listed only as Specter. The legacy of the Specter. Over the next 5 years, the mysterious Specter became a ghost story told among British camps. He forged documents, intercepted dispatches, and turned entire regiments against each other through false orders. Washington himself was said to have remarked, "I would rather lose 10 men in battle than lose the hand that writes for liberty." When the war finally ended in 1783, Elias Carter vanished again, not to glory, but to silence. His name was erased from official records, his writings scattered or destroyed to protect the network that had once saved the revolution. Some say he died in obscurity, teaching again in a small Virginia town. Others claim he lived under an alias in Philadelphia, penning essays that shaped the first American press. But in one dusty archive, hidden inside a faded copy of The Massachusetts Spy, a single note remains in his handwriting.